What if you could capture the magic of the ocean inside a simple glass bottle? In today's video, I'll show you how to turn an ordinary bottle into a stunning underwater seascape using reverse decoupage and air dry clay. Stay with me. This project is easier than you think and absolutely mesmerizing. Hello there, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc. And welcome to my channel. If you're ready to dive in, let's get started making a mess. First off, let's get rid of this cork. I'm going to use a much nicer one. The first thing I'm doing is wiping this piece with an alcohol wipe. This will remove any dirt, debris, or fingerprints. You want a nice clean surface to start off with. I'm going to brush on Polyvine's multi-surface lacquer in a dead flat finish. I'm using the dead flat finish because I want to remove the shine. It's specially formulated to create a durable bond on slick, non-porous surfaces such as plastic, glass, ceramic, and metal. That bond acts as a gripping layer that allows paints, decoupage papers, or transfers to stick more effectively. Without it, top layers may chip, scratch, or peel. For best results, I'm going to let this dry overnight. Notice that the glass isn't clear any longer. The multi-surface lacquer removed the shine, which gives the glass a frosted appearance. If you plan on having a section that you want to see through, make sure to avoid the lacquer in that area. Removing the shine is what's needed to give your paint good adhesion. I have the perfect underwater rice paper. This will be the backdrop for all my little embellishments. Right now I'm trying to figure which part of this beautiful paper I want to use. I think I'll go with the bottom right. There are a lot of interesting things going on there. I'm removing the white edge at the bottom of the paper, and now I'll get it sized to fit the bottle by removing paper and shaping it into a circle. I'm using a water brush and tearing the paper instead of cutting it. A water brush has a cartridge that you fill with water and then brush it on the napkin or rice paper. The water dispenses easily, so this is really convenient. You can find this in my description box below in my favorite tools section, just in case you want to check it out. You always want to tear your rice paper or napkin instead of cutting it. A torn edge is much easier to blend than a sharp cut edge. I'll have the paper cover the entire back of the bottle and around the side as well. This way, when you look through the front of the bottle, you'll see the water seen everywhere. The front is still clear glass. I didn't put any of the multi-surface lacquer there, just where I'm going to decoupage. In a little bit, I'm going to show you how to add sand to your project that stays put and doesn't flake off in any way. Make sure you stick around. You'll want to see this. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from decoupagenapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. The bottle is rounded and the paper won't lay flat against the glass. I'm tearing little slits around the sides of the paper. The slits will overlap each other, making the paper lay flat, and you'll never notice them at all. I'm using Polyvine Decorator's Varnish as my decoupage adhesive today. You can use this product as a varnish and an adhesive, which is true for all the Polyvine formulas. It works so much better than the most popular brand of decoupage glue. It's not a glue, so it doesn't go on thick and lumpy. It's a varnish, so it dries crystal clear and will never yellow. I made sure to get my image exactly where I wanted it and then brush the varnish right over top of the paper. It will go right through the paper and adhere it to the bottle. Doing it this way gives you way more control over where your paper ends up. You don't have to worry about laying it on the glue incorrectly and having to lift it back up, risking a tear in your paper. If you're looking inside the bottle, you can see through the bottom. So I used Dixie Belle paint and the color drop cloth to paint the bottom of the bottle. This color looked pretty much like the sand in the paper. I let my paper dry for a couple of hours, and now I'm going to use Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color cotton, which is white, to paint over all the decoupaged paper. Make sure you always paint white or very light off-white wherever you're going to decoupage rice paper or a napkin. White allows the colors in your images to look more vibrant. Dark colors will make your images look dark and muddy. I'm not taking my paint to the very edge, but getting very close. If I try to get any closer, I'll get paint on all those feathered edges. As long as the white covers almost all of the paper, it'll look just fine. I'm going to have embellishments around all of those edges anyway. I'm going to mix up some paint for the back of the bottle that blends well with the blue water in the rice paper. I'm mixing together Pentart Turquoise Blue, Dixie Belle Cotton, Pentart Dark Blue, and Tropic Bay Blue, and the color turned out great. I always mix up my paints in these little 2-ounce plastic containers. They have a lid so my paint will stay fresh for at least the duration of my project. And when you're finished with your project, you can just throw them away. I don't want to have to mix this color again should I run out, so I always mix a little more than what I think I'll need. The white paint is dry now, so I'm painting my color over the white. You need the white paint right behind your rice paper to make your images pop. But after that, you can paint any color you want. I took this color all the way to the edge very carefully. It's the same blue as the rice paper, so if a little bit of it got on the glass, it wouldn't be noticeable. My crafty friend Patty requested an under the sea mixed media project with mermaids on a round flat bottle. And my crafty friend Cynthia S. requested an under the water scene project. Ladies, this video is for you. Where are you all watching from, my crafty friends? Let me know in the comments. I just love to see what cities and countries all my friends are watching from. I'm filming from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. I'm using my favorite DOS clay to make some embellishments for this project. DOS clay is so easy to work with, dries quickly, and has very little shrinkage or cracking when dry. It's perfect for making molded pieces. After pressing the clay into the molds, I'm scraping off the excess with my palette knife. I'm making mermaid tails, lots of seashells, a seahorse, and some sea plants. Sorry, Cynthia, I couldn't find any jellyfish molds. And then smoothing the clay out with some water. Then I'll put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Freezing the clay makes it rigid so they just pop out of the mold easily. No tiny little limbs will break off. Some molds are just too shallow to get a good molding with clay. In that case, I use cream paste. This product is great for extremely shallow molds. I'm adding it to the mold and then scraping off the excess with my palette knife. This product will need to dry overnight. Fresh out of the freezer, watch how easily these just pop out of the molds. No delicate little pieces will break off. They are frozen solid, so I'll need to let them thaw for a few minutes, but not in the mold. Make sure you remove them from the mold right away as soon as you take them out of the freezer. If you want to see an in-depth video on how to work with air dry clay, click the banner in the top right corner of your screen. I'll also leave you a link for that video in my description box below. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue to add my molded clay to my piece. I need to add this while the clay is still wet so it'll conform to the piece as it dries. This is the best glue I've found for attaching wet clay. If any glue seeps out from under the clay, I'm removing it right away with a clean damp brush. I'm also pressing down all the edges of the clay very delicately to make sure they're all connecting with the piece. Since the bottle is round and the clay while wet can be heavy, I had to use some painter's tape to hold some of the molded pieces in place. They just kept slipping all over, especially those mermaid tails. I went all the way up both sides with my clay pieces, where the paper and paint met with the clear glass. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. And why not share this with a friend? Thanks for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. this covered up that seam but looks way too symmetrical. I'm going to add some clusters of shells to break up all that symmetry. I had to let some of my clay dry overnight before continuing. I didn't want to take a chance on smashing anything that I already put on there. Once I'm done gluing all my pieces on the bottle, I'll let them all dry overnight. DecoupageNapkins.com has such a great selection of napkins that you can purchase one at a time. They carry many other craft supplies such as rice paper, paint, clay, molds, and a great selection of polyvine products. Over 9,000 products and growing. They are wonderful to work with and will send your order out fast. You'll receive free shipping on orders over $75 and special bonus points for orders over $100. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address and you'll receive 10% off your next order. They are truly your one-stop shop for craft supplies. Make sure you check them out. I'll be leaving links for all the products I use in my description box below, as well as more information on the previously mentioned promotions. Please note that any of these promotions are subject to future changes. Before I remove the cream paste from the mold, I'm using an alcohol wipe to remove all the excess paste from around the molded form. Even after removing this from the mold, it will remain flexible and will conform to any shape. Everything is dry now and it's time to get them all painted. I'm starting off with my plants. I cut them apart so I could put smaller pieces in different areas instead of one large piece. I'm painting them with Pentart Vintage Green. I'm dry brushing them with Pentart White Coffee to give them a slight golden hue. Then dry brushed them again with Dixie Belle Drop Cloth to highlight them. With dry brushing, I'm getting very little paint on my brush and just lightly swiping it over the molded piece, not getting total coverage. I'll give them a coat of clear varnish and then set them to the side. I'll be gluing these on later. I'm using Pentart Yellow Red Clay to paint all the starfish. I'm being real careful not to paint the glass, but if you do get any paint on it, once dry, it'll scrape right off. But I normally wipe it off right away with a Q-tip. I'm using conch shell for some of the seashells as well as vintage pink to add some color differences. I'm using Pentart Country Blue for some of them, as well as Rainy Day Gray. I test all the products that I recommend in my videos. I won't recommend anything that I haven't used myself and prefer. If I'm recommending it, you can bet it's a great product. Each product will be listed in my description box below and will have a blue link to make it easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. I used Pentart Turquoise Blue for the mermaid tails to start. I'm using Dixie Belle in the color Magnolia, which is a warm white. I love this color. I am painting the tips of the tails and blending it into the turquoise in an ombre technique, going back and forth using a sponge with the turquoise and magnolia until I liked the way it looked. If you want to see a video tutorial on exactly how to do ombre painting, click the banner at the top right of your screen. I'll also leave you a link for this video in my description box below, as well as at the end of this video. I'm not going traditional with the colors of the clownfish. I want to use more muted shades to match what's in the rice paper. I'm using Dixie Belle Magnolia as my base color, and Pentart Leaf Green for the other little fish. Now back to the clownfish. I'm mixing Magnolia, Yellow Red Clay, conch shell, and Vintage Pink to make my peachy color for the stripes. I also dry brushed their fins with my peachy color. Pentart Hazelnut for my cute little seahorse. I'm going to be doing some dry brushing over all my little shells and sea creatures to add some depth and highlights. Vintage Pink on the starfish. Magnolia over all the gray and blue shells. vintage pink over the conch shell colored shells, hazelnut over the drop cloth shells, conch shell over the vintage pink shells, and Tropic Bay Blue over the green fish. Now I'm going to use the Tropic Bay Blue to dry brush the mermaid tails. And then I added a little magnolia on the seahorse. When dry brushing, I add a little bit of paint just on the tip of my brush. Wipe the excess off on the side of the container, and then wipe more off on a paper towel. You literally want your brush to be just about dry. Then I'll just lightly skim it over the top of the embellishments, catching the high areas. I added some of the Tropic Bay Blue to all the gray shells, some of the peachy color that I mixed up for the clownfish to the starfish. I added some yellow ochre to any of the tan shells and added turquoise blue to my little green fish. Then I decided that the seahorse needed some additional color, so I added a little of the yellow ochre to him as well. I let all the paint dry for about 30 minutes, and now I'm going to give all my embellishments a coat of Polyvine heavy-duty wood varnish in a satin finish. I'm going to be doing some antiquing, and I need a shiny surface to prepare for that. And I'll let these dry for an hour before moving on. I didn't paint the back of the bottle just yet, but I did paint the varnish over the edge of the embellishments and overlapping the bottles so I'd be able to wipe off my antique easily. The turquoise item that you're seeing me use is called a cup cradle. It's made from silicone and I rely on it a lot. I use this anytime I'm working on something round. It keeps my piece from rolling away from me. I get a lot of people asking me what it is. There'll be a link in my description box below, just in case you want to check it out. I'm going to make a custom antique using a glazing medium. I put about a teaspoon in a little paper cup. I'm adding just a tiny bit of Pentart paint in light brown. That turned out not to be dark enough, so I'm adding some Pentart earthy brown to the mix. I'm brushing my antique on the piece, going over and around all the embellishments. I'm doing this in sections and wiping the antique off with a soft dry cloth right away before it can dry. Because of the gloss finish, it will wipe off the surface and stay in all the cracks and crevices, showing the details of the mold. Antiquing gives your embellishments some depth and dimension, making everything look 3D instead of flat. What a difference it makes. Everything just comes to life now. The glazing medium slows down the drying time of the paint, which gives you more working time. It will eventually dry, so you want to wipe it off before that happens. I brushed it over the embellishments as well as the edge where the clay meets the glass. Any antique that gets on the glass can be wiped off easily. If you have any little white spots where they didn't get painted perfectly, this will make them disappear. I molded a mermaid for the back of the bottle using Doss air dry clay and a beautiful accent mold. I painted her all the same colors as the other embellishments. I used Pentart white coffee for her hair. I gave her a coat of the heavy-duty wood varnish, and now I'm going to antique her as well, brushing it on and wiping it off, and then some touch-ups to my blue background. I'm using Dixie Belle Magnolia to do some dry brushing on all the embellishments. This will lighten and brighten by highlighting all the high areas of the details of the molds. It will also make all the colors blend by bringing their tones together. I'm sure you guys have noticed that I use a lot of Dixie Belle and Pentart paints. These are my absolute favorites. They both go on super smooth and creamy with really good coverage. I rarely, if ever, need a second coat of Pentart, and that goes for the metallic colors as well. Now I'm going to make everything look iridescent, using Dixie Belle pearlescent glaze on all the embellishments as well. I'm doing this as a dry brushing technique too. I don't want total coverage, just a light pearl glow to all the beautiful shells and sea creatures. Since this is a glaze and all the embellishments already have a sealer, sealing again won't be necessary. This is just plain sand that you can get at the hobby stores. I'm going to show you how to add sand to your projects that won't flake off. I put some in a little paper cup. Now I'm going to add Polyvine Heavy Duty Wood Varnish in the satin finish to the sand and mix it up. I'm adding some Aleene's Tacky Glue where I'm going to put the sand. Now I'm adding the sand with a palette knife over the glue. I'm also adding some to the lip of the bottle at the top. The varnish will make the sand hard and stuck together so it won't flake apart and fall off your bottle. The glue will keep it in place. I'll let that dry overnight before moving on to the back of the bottle. I let the sand dry for several hours, and now I'm adding some Dixie Belle paint in the color Cotton near the sand on the back of the bottle. I'm putting it full coverage at the bottom by the sand and then dragging my brush upward and lightening up on my pressure so it becomes transparent. I'm dabbing it with a damp sea sponge to blend it in. I'm mixing together turquoise blue, tropical babe blue, dark blue, and some water to make a darker blue than the paint on the back. I'm using a damp sea sponge again to dab this color on at the top and center of the bottle and blending it in with the white at the bottom. After the paint dried, I gave the water on the back of the bottle a coat of Polyvine Heavy Duty Wood Varnish in a satin finish. 2 or 3 coats of this gives you a beautiful shine that's moisture and high heat resistant, as well as high chemical resistant, high stain resistant, high abrasion resistant, and food safe. This works wonderful on any painted or decoupage surface or shiny surface that has been coated with Polyvine multi-surface lacquer. I let that dry for an hour between each coat and an hour after the final coat. I've had a few people ask me if this varnish has a strong smell. No, it does not. It's water-based, so there are no harmful fumes at all. I didn't do the shells or other embellishments with the clear varnish because I gave them the pearlescent glaze. I wanted only the water to be shining. These are little glass spheres in an Aurora Borealis color. They are going to be bubbles. I'm dripping on my satin varnish as a glue for the bubbles. The varnish makes a great glue. If there is any around the bubbles, you won't be able to see it because it's clear and shiny, so it blends in with the glass. And Shirley, my friend, you are not going to like these. They bounce all over the place, but they are so pretty that I'm up for the fight. I put them in between shells, bubbling up from the bottom of the ocean and from the fish. It's July. Who is ready for some Christmas projects? I'm going to start rolling out some Christmas projects and tree ornaments. I'm going to start off by making some projects that were requested last year but couldn't complete because I ran out of time. If you have anything you'd like to see this year, let me know. I love planning projects around your requests. Just please be patient. I get a lot of requests and I get to them as quickly as I can. Remember those sea plants I painted a while back? They're finally making their way to the bottle. These are so flexible that they move, so I need to use a hot glue gun. I need glue that holds immediately. I put a small drop in one area and glued that down. Next, I took each branch and put a small bead of glue down the center and placed it on the glass lightly without pushing it down hard. If you press it hard, the glue will ooze out from under. Since they are so flexible, you can bend them so they can be placed however you want. And a few more bubbles to disguise this gap. I have this nifty bottle cork that has a light in it. It's rechargeable with a USB plug-in. I'm not a fan of the white, so I'm going to glue some twine around the part of it that will show above the neck of the bottle, and added a shell. I painted the shell to match all the others on the bottle. I also wrapped some twine around the neck of the bottle and tied it in a bow at the bottom. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. I've added a link to a video that I think you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that video. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.